politics-free media or politicized free media. I think that's politicized free media rather than... Now the thing is that, you see, politics should be there. I am all for politics because we are a democracy. And I am not even against ideology being there. My only problem is with political affiliation. Ideology can be an economic ideology. Ideology can be a social ideology. But the problem is that when media gets affiliated to media, media starts speaking the language perhaps more vociferously than party spokesmen. When anchors start speaking more vociferously in favor or against more than the spokesman of the party, then that is a warning signal. That is the problem. Now, what is happening today is that I totally agree. You see, this has primarily happened because the institution of the editor has been marginalized like never before. I don't know. Forget students. If I ask media teachers who is the editor of a particular newspaper, I think that very few people would be able to mention who is the editor of a particular newspaper, because we do not know. There is a new institution, there is a new breed of people called managing editors who are mostly owners, and I don't know what they manage, but they are there, and these representatives of the managements are calling the shots, except for one or two newspapers, and most of them run on trust models, independent trust models, say a Tribune in Chandigarh or a Samaja in Odisha. I think that you have the circulation and the marketing department, the advertisement departments calling the shots rather than the editorial department in newspapers. Now, once this happens, obviously, the politicization or the commercialization, they are all complete. I think we need to restore the primacy of the editor in the newspaper or the channel. That is important. And once that happens, today channels have become anchor driven, not editor driven. So the same thing holds true for newspapers also. The editor, you do not know who is the person, except the name that you see, that so and so is the editor under the Press and Registration of Books Act, PRB Act. Except that, you don't find that. So it's very important that we restore the credentials. And yes, second, as I told you, is that when we start paying for independent news, so the onus is also on us, not just on the newspapers. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I have another question for you, sir, which has come from media educators. It says that how, sir, we media educators should upgrade ourselves on a regular basis. Can you please share some tips with us, sir?
Well, I think we have to be constantly reading the same thing that we tell our students. But we have to be constantly reading what is happening globally. We have to be constantly getting updated with what is happening in terms of, there have to be training of trainers, the FDPs. The FTPs should not be just for certification and for API scores. It is important that we continuously do research. Let's not say that, well, I have done my research with the submission of my PhD thesis. That is the end of my research. I would love to see more faculty members writing research papers. After 20 years of being in journalism education, I have seen people telling me that I have written 16 research papers. So I tell them that means on an average you have not even written one research paper in a year. That is shameful. And most of the research papers that media educators, I'm sorry, and this is for everybody. I'm a little blunt. That's why I'm not, perhaps that popular because I often speak the truth. We get to write, we ask our PhD scholars to write the papers, and then we of course get the credit, our name comes first in that. So let's start doing some original research also. Let's start writing research papers to begin with. Let's not just be dependent on our research scholars. Okay, you write, I will also get the credit. So we need to have a research bent of mind. We need to research new things. We have done our PhD 30 years back, but let us also keep updating ourselves, do research, attend FDPs, and constantly be on the learning path. Stagnant water breeds mosquitoes. Let us not remain academically stagnant.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So there's another question, sir, which says that, sir, can you please suggest us some topics on which we can conduct research, because we are kind of technical faculties. So how can we proceed with our research? Because we are more into production, softwares and everything. So could you please suggest us some broad topics on which we can work on?
And these are media teachers?
Media teachers, they are technical faculties basically. They are into software teaching learning.
Absolutely. I think that one is that there are because these things depend. If you are a general media educator, you are into teaching, then you have a different. But if you are into technology, then I think that today the focus should be on. We are talking about online education and how we can make online education much more interactive. We have students living in far off areas, how we can take education to them in both in the synchronous and asynchronous mode, how we can not just look at the online education, but also how can we give them hands-on training through online. Because one complaint that is coming is that, sir, how do I learn the practical things sitting at home? The theory your teachers can come and teach me. Can you explore the possibilities as technical faculty? That how can we ensure, yes, they cannot have access to the DSLR if they don't come from a reasonably, affluent family. But can a student coming from a lower middle class or middle class family, how can he through online mode learn the basics of not just theoretically but also get some hands-on practice? How you can use the mobile phone, to teach them editing, to teach them, software skills, to do good mojo, mobile journalism. I think that these are the areas that you can, the whole idea is to decentralize and democratize. How can we do that technologically? That is the big challenge, because content is being delivered. But what is happening today, sorry to say this, is that instead of teaching in the classroom, teachers are sitting in front of laptops and giving lecture in the same manner. But that doesn't work. You have to make it much more interactive. You have to engage the students. So the student will show his face or mute his camera and his audio, and then he of course has his attendance, but he is doing something else. How can you keep him constantly engaged? And that is a challenge before departments and universities also, how to train the teachers who have never ever used, please remember, and I admire the teachers there for that. Most of the universities, I don't know about MIT Kolkata, but most of the universities were taken in by surprise with this COVID, and suddenly teachers who were never used to it suddenly started teaching. So full marks to the teachers also. I am not always critical of teachers. They have been doing a commendable job. But now that this has become part of the harsh reality, blended learning is the new mantra. So even if we recover from COVID, it's going to be, the blended learning is going to be the new thing. It's no more going to be brick and mortar. It's going to be brick and portal. So in this brick and portal mode, how are we going to ensure that students get the best? I think that is where the technical faculty should be focusing on. And of course the latest technologies in the West, globally, which are being utilized today, those are things which we need to talk about.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I think we have somebody in the participants who's raising her hand. Ms. Vijay Lakshmi, ma'am, you can hear us. Please, can you please ask over microphone, or you can put it in the chat box if you want. Yes.
This is probably the last question.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Vijay Lakshmi, ma'am, can you hear us? If you're there, we just saw you raising your hand. Please. You can also WhatsApp us the questions if you want. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for this question and answer round. It was lovely hearing you. Over to Pramiti, ma'am.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and your participants can all stay connected with me through my social media handles also.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.